All right, let's talk LSU Tigers, one of the more talented teams in the SEC. It's been that way going back, I feel like, decades now. But this is sort of a make or break year for LSU, make or break year for head coach Brian Kelly. We've got to see more noise. We got to see a deep playoff push. Fortunately for the LSU Tigers, there's some new guys coming into the fold, new guys getting on the practice field that already look ridiculously good, stepping up to their high talented profile. Exciting news in Baton Rouge. But first, I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, a lot of things to talk about with LSU. Let's jump right into the reports, and we'll go into detail on the other side. This first one is from SI.com. It's no secret that the cornerback room will be a unit that has a position battle through fall camp in August. But five-star freshman DJ Pickett will be a name to keep tabs on. LSU returns Ashton Stamps and PJ Woodland alongside transfers Jakeem Jackson and Mansour Delane, but Pickett is certainly a newcomer that has the chance to work his way into first-team reps. Watching a guy on film move that way with his height was what really surprised me about him. Kelly said, "I don't know if it's an argument. We believe he's hands down the best corner in the country." Wow. I don't know that I've ever felt that there is a lockdown corner, but he's about as close to there is to a lockdown corner in the country. That is high praise from Coach Brian Kelly, who, look, we all know Coach Kelly. He's not exactly the Mr. Rah, 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 I love my guys, everything's going great. You know, when he was at Notre Dame, when he was asked one time about the execution of his offense, he famously responded, "I'm all for it," right? Again, not a guy that's known for puffing up the niceties. So when he says this about Pickett, that is a really special sign for this young corner. But there's more news on the LSU front. Let's go into the second report that should be already on the screen there from On3 Sports. LSU is reportedly set to hire a former national champion to serve as its defensive line coach after an exhaustive search. Kyle Williams, who was part of the 2003 squad on the Bayou, is the guy. After he started at LSU and won a national championship with Nick Saban, Kyle Williams went to the NFL. He spent 13 years there, where he was a six-time Pro Bowler and earned second-team All-Pro honors in 2010. So really solid hire, really solid addition there. Again, this defense for LSU, a lot of attention on the offense with Nussmeier, but we know going back a couple years now, this LSU defense has been a problem. It looks like it's getting closer and closer to being solved. Miles, I know you've got a few thoughts on this, but first, LSU fans in the comment section below, of all the new freshmen coming into the building, which one are you most excited to see? Give us the freshman you think will have an exciting impact for the Tigers right out the get-go. Could be Pickett, could be somebody else, whoever it may be. Give us that one LSU Tigers freshman you think's ready to be a superstar from day one. Put them in the comment section below. But Miles, over to you now. What are your thoughts on this latest news out of LSU?
Yeah, Nick, I'm gonna be hard pressed for it not to be Pickett for me. Just hearing the praise of this guy, hearing the accolades of a team that has been in the past been called DBU, had some of the greatest DBs of all time come out of LSU, and Coach Kelly, knowing that history, comes out and says, "Hey, I don't really think there's such thing as a lockdown corner, but this guy's as close as it comes. We think he's one of the best players in the country." I think it's really great. And you look at the out of control size of a guy like DJ Pickett, 6'4", 180 pounds, really just a monster on the field. Just a rare size of, height, weight, and athletic ability. This guy is going to be something special. And it's like you said, this is a make or break year for LSU. But one thing I'm seeing here is the rise of the defense. The offense, we knew Nussmeier coming back, some of these weapons coming up as well. The offense is probably going to be in a pretty good spot. But as far as the defense, we need to see some key indicators that it was going to be able to evolve and get better. And that's come in DJ Pickett. I think he's going to be the surprise factor for this defense. Having a freshman come in, if he's as good as advertised, heck, if he's even like 50% as good as advertised, he's going to elevate this defense to a really, really nice level. But on top of that, I think bringing in Kyle Williams at the defensive line coach position as well is going to be really key. Just kind of a culture shift. Bring in a guy winning championship experience, knows what it's like to win a national championship at LSU. Guy was kind of a legend when he was at LSU. Did a lot of really great things in the NFL as well. But Kyle Williams, I think he brings a lot to this program. And I think he's going to bring a lot to this defense. I think bringing that championship DNA in, that's going to be a big part too. I don't think people talk about it enough. But having someone there that's tied to the program in the way that Williams is and knows how to win, I think it's going to be really great. But I think overall, it's just looking good. There's a defensive wave. We're seeing a lot of defensive momentum for LSU going forward. And I think now more than ever, this was the time we needed it. And I think it's going to help them out tremendously next season.
Yeah, it needs to, right? Look, Blake Baker was brought in from Missouri to fix the defense. Didn't happen last year completely, especially when you look down the numbers. I had to pull this up and double and triple check because I almost didn't believe it. Here are the teams in the SEC that had a better passing defense in 2024 than the LSU Tigers, right? The teams that had better passing defense: Texas Longhorns, Missouri Tigers, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Auburn. That's a long list, right? This is an LSU, a proud LSU program that's known for playing aggressive, feisty, assertive, reckless, abandoned defense, and DBU, like you said, and they've been pretty good up front on the defensive line historically as well. These kind of numbers, bottom half of the SEC in passing defense, that ain't going to get it done. Not for LSU, frankly, not for any top program in the country, but certainly not the Tigers, who are known categorically for that being one of the things they stop. Blake Baker, I think we all know Coach Kelly's a little bit of a hot seat. I think Blake Baker's a little bit on the hot seat too. He's going to fix some of these problems. Now, the good news for the Tigers, they've been taking the right approach because I pulled up the recruiting class, the most recent class here. And if you look at it by position, they ended up with 9 guys from the offensive side of the football. Defensive wise, 14 guys, including 5 defensive backs, tied with defensive line for the most recruited position. So what does that mean? It means they recognize that, okay, our defense is a problem and we need to get after the passer and we need to cover better. And I think Pickett coming in is going to be a big part of that. And that's a big part of a key strategy for the LSU Tigers. This is a team that's been having first round picks, NFL guys, both sides of the ball, but really it's been so offensive heavy and then just a sprinkling of a star DB or a star linebacker here or there. We need more around the entire line of scrimmage talent defensively. Give me 4 NFL guys, right? It's not unheard of. Alabama and Georgia, they do it all the time. Texas, follow that same model. There's no reason else you can't get it done in the recruiting game. To be totally honest, what has happened prior to the 2024-2025 recruiting class is inexcusable. For a program like LSU, you've got to do better recruiting the most important positions on the field in terms of defensively, the guys who get after the quarterback. I think this last class was much better. And of course, DBs was really solid as well. Some good linebackers there too. So again, defensively, talent is trending in the right direction. They were always stacked on offense with a handful of guys on defense, but overall, as a group, as a unit, they're getting better across the board, all 3 levels. Hopefully, year 2 of Baker, almost you hope the promise there a little bit was like last year's 100 level Baker defense after a season, another spring ball, a fall camp, another training camp. Maybe they'll get to 200, 300 level of Baker defense. We'll see more exotic stuff, more things to confuse opposing offenses. Pair that with more of the talent, like I talked about, we could get an exponentially better LSU defense. I hope so. There's a chance all that works out, and it needs to work out. This is a program. I'll put them up there with one of the bigger of all the bigger blue bloods in the SEC, right? Alabama, the Georgias, the Auburns, the Tennessees. If LSU is not playing good football, it's bad for the conference. It's bad for the league. I think they're trending in the right direction. Pickett doing great things out the get go. Coach Kelly's comments to me are, whoa, that's really something impressive. That's really incredible. I tell you what, speaks how special this kid is. But as a unit, LSU needs to get better. The trend looks good so far. We'll have to see it through spring ball and, of course, on Saturdays. But it's something that should have happened last year. Hopefully, better late than never. We'll find out in short order.
Yeah, and again, just to touch on one thing, talk about recruiting for this team and what it's been able to do. And you talk about how they were able to recruit defensively. 14 of those 23 recruits are defensive guys. I think they did a really great job. But let's not, get away from the fact that they're 10th in the country in recruiting. They had a really highly ranked recruiting class as well. So they're bringing in a lot of good talent as well across the board. But that wasn't even, that's a flash in the pan compared to what they were able to do in the transfer portal. They're number 1 transfer portal class in all of college football with the 16 transfers they were able to bring in 2025. This team did something really special there. So there's a lot of guys coming in there. You see defensive line, you see edge, you see safety. Tamarcus Cooley, the guy from NC State, really great prospect as well. Just a lot of good DBs in the transfer portal as well. I think that this is going to be a much, much improved team. I like what they've done, getting 10 guys out of the state of Louisiana as well. As we look back to last year, what they were able to do, 7th ranked recruiting class last year, not too bad. 18 guys out of Louisiana, great. They're doing locally. But in the transfer portal, they're 43rd. Going from 43rd last year to 1st this year, I think that's got to be a really big indicator here as well. Just showing that this is a team that knows what they needed to do to fix this defense. We saw the focus here. Get a 5-star guy. Get Pickett. Go out, be dominant as far as getting some of the best recruits in the country coming in. He looked really good. also hit the transfer portal hard, also hit the other levels of the recruiting class hard for defense. I think we're going to see a much, much improved LSU defense across the board, whether it's veteran guys or young guys coming in. I'm excited to what we have to see. And like you said, I think we're going to see a much more advanced, a much more complicated, and a much better Blake Baker defense.
Well, a few points on the transfer class. I think that's a necessity thing, right? I think that's, hey, listen, we can't wait around for freshmen to develop. I also think it's the reality of the NIL world, right? You could bring in a great freshman, have them develop, then have Texas offer him $5 million and he's off to Austin. That's a real problem for any program. So I think LSU bringing all these transfers, and there's a lot of really good guys. Peyton from Florida State, for example, I think he could be a really good player on the upfront for the defensive line for the Tigers. But overall, I think this is a kind of, I don't want to say desperate, but really a sense of urgency on this defensive unit. Baker, Brian Kelly, really the entire squad. They've got to get this unit playing a lot better, right? Because it's not like they're not, it's not like this is a team that's, well, they're a top 5 unit. We really need them to be number 1. We're talking bottom half in the SEC here, back-to-back seasons. I can't think of a time, right? I remember that disaster of a year with Orgeron his last year there defensively, that kind of collapse, at least early in that year. When I watched that happen, I'm like, boy, this is such an anomaly. I can't ever imagine LSU being this bad defensively ever again. And then we got it very similar to that anyway, and back-to-back seasons. It just can't happen, right? I'm going to keep harping on it. And I think that's why we saw so many transfers. I think that's why Brian Kelly's been the way he's been this offseason with all of his comments and things like that. He recognizes this is an offense. Last year it was 2, but this is an offense this year that's good enough to win playoff games, good enough to get you to the playoff, good enough to win playoff games, maybe make a run at the whole darn thing. Defensively, they got talent. They just need to put it together and they need to step up. Maybe it just takes one guy, right? And that's possible. We've seen it before. Maybe it just takes DJ Pickett becoming the Darrelle Revis equivalent, former NFL corner, of course, of the SEC, locking down half a field, and then suddenly defense gets a lot easier to play. Very, very possible. I hate relying on a true freshman, but look, at this point, maybe that's what gets it done. I think he's off to a great start. I think he'll be a great player. And like I said, I agree with you, Mize, that they're trending in the right direction defensively. We'll see how things go during spring ball. Definitely something to keep an eye on.